Car race is about to start on a circuit in the United States. The pilot, J.J. Solier, is heading towards his car, but he is approached by Kate, his greatest rival on the track, who is standing next to Tammy, J.J.'s former little friend. He promises his rival to win the race. The two men head towards their car, and before they start on the track, Kate hangs onto his rearview mirror a necklace that seems to belong to someone very important. A few minutes later, KT and JJ are first. Both must stop at the stand, and JJ's car starts to overheat. The mechanic advises him to wait for the repair, but the driver continues the race. The two rivals continue their race with a lot of effort, but as the mechanic had warned, JJ's car has a serious engine failure, and as a result, the driver loses control of his vehicle, pushing KT's car against the wall. JJ is the victim of a serious accident. His car turned several times on the track, but the impact hit the firefighting CAT vehicle. Years have passed since this tragedy, and JG has definitively abandoned the car race to become a truck driver. The former driver sees a distracted driver and lacks a serious accident, forcing JG to make a brust, causing a leak in the transmission tube. As he tries to repair the truck, the Sheriff H shows up to help him, and where he meets an old mechanic friend named Cliff, who was also Kate's older brother and Tommy's current husband. They both go to the garage door, and JJ finds Kate's old car there. Cliff reveals to him that he has completely rebuilt it and thinks that fate brought JJ back just after he finished repairing the car. This reminds JJ of his terrible experience, but Cliff also reveals to him that what happened on the track was not his fault. Carcate had cornered the mechanic to sabotage the car of his rival, thus causing the tragic accident. Furious, he smashes the glass he was holding against the hood of the car. Curiously, the liquid seems to melt on the bodywork, but JJ laughs and immediately attacks Cliff for having hidden the truth from him all these years. The dispute is interrupted by Tammy, who arrives at the scene to help her husband, and JJ leaves. While the trucker goes to the bar to wait for his vehicle to be repaired, Kate's car suddenly starts all alone and moves away. At that moment, two young men see the car going in a hurry to an isolated place and chase it. Shortly after, they realize that there is no driver and decide to get a drink inside the car. But when one of them goes to get it in the trunk, his arm begins to be sucked inside and his hand is grabbed by the car. The boy tries to resist, but the car continues to suck it to the point that half of its body remains inside the car, while the other half is projected to the ground. The young man breaks his ribs and begins to bleed to the point that the car drags him into the forest. The next day, JJ returns to the bar, always shocked by what Cliff revealed to her. Shortly after, Tammy arrives and gives her the keys to the repaired vehicle. She wants to know what happened between him and her husband, but JJ wants to forget the past and return to her truck. He falls asleep in the cabin, but wakes up a few hours later hearing someone making graffiti on the vehicle. He finds a girl painting the bodywork, and JJ takes him to the police station, where he discovers that the girl, nicknamed Jessie, is none other than Tammy's daughter. Tammy arrives shortly after and brings the girl back home, while Cliff returns to the garage, visibly enraged and regretting what happened between him and JJ. Notices that the garage door is open and will check if someone has trafficked the car from KT. But when he looks inside, the car has the door window active, which instantly removes the head of Cliff. The vehicle moves away at full speed, leaving the body of the mechanic on the ground. One day later, a policeman approaches JJ's van and orders him to go to Cliff's workshop without knowing what it was about. The Sheriff Hodges informs him that the mechanic was beheaded. The sheriff suspects JJ because he heard about the fight between the two, but the trucker claims that he is not guilty. Fortunately, the expert present at the scene tells the sheriff that the trucker has an alibi. The sheriff therefore considers him innocent, but the force revealed to him the reason for the fight between him and Cliff. JJ then reveals the sabotage of his car that caused the accident years ago, but he adds that when he saw Kate's car, he had the feeling that he was the one who started the fight. The sheriff asks JJ to leave because he is still traumatized by the incident, and the trucker decides to visit Tammy to see how she is doing. A policeman sees Kate's car on the road and follows it to a construction site, alerting the sheriff. The policeman fires several shots at the vehicle, but the bullets have no effect and he ends up hitting the car and finding himself on the hood. The car activates the ice rinks and locks itself to saw the face of the policeman, who falls lifeless on the ground. During this time, JJ reveals that he had the impression that the ghost of his rival was controlling the vehicle. Tammy finds this absurd and asks him to leave. JJ then decides to leave the city, but does not suspect that Jesse is inside the vehicle because the young girl was looking for information on Kate's death. JJ notices that the girl is in the car and asks her to leave. Jesse continues to rebel and even proposes to stay with him because she does not want to live in her hometown, but JJ refuses to complain that Tammy needs her daughter to go through this difficult period. However, the ghost car suddenly appears and begins to destroy everything around it. Jessie recognizes the car that belonged to her father, but she notices that there is no one on the driver's seat. JJ tells the young girl to get in the van and he leaves. Meanwhile, Tammy notices that her daughter is still not home and goes to the police station to ask for help. When he learns of Jessie's disappearance, Sheriff H fears that something terrible may have happened to her, because in the morning he found the bodies of the two young men killed by the ghost car. For the sheriff, the only suspect of these crimes is JJ, due to his personal quarrel with Kathy and Cliff. These suspicions make Tammy even more nervous by revealing to him that Kate's car was owned. Worried about the worst, the sheriff and his assistant arm themselves and go in search of JJ. Tammy insists on accompanying her because she believes that Jessie is with him. Meanwhile, the young girl believes in history and asks JJ to tell her about the old rivalry that opposed her late father. JJ replies that this alleged rivalry was created by the city to draw attention to the races, but in reality, they were once great friends. However, the rumors that they were rivals began to influence the spirit of Cathay, who became obsessed with victory. Their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of a police car in Sheriff's Age who points a gun at Jesse. Jesse explains to everyone that Jesse is innocent and that they have been attacked by the ghost car, but no one listens. The young girl tries to escape, and Tammy, accompanied by the sheriff's assistant, JJ, tries to explain what happened, but H is about to stop it. Suddenly, the car hits the old sheriff, who is killed on the neck. The car turns around to make other victims. The vehicle accelerates, overturns the other police officer, and begins to crush him with his rear wheel. JJ sends Jesse and Tammy into the vehicle and rushes to help the police officer, but the ghost car begins to accelerate the tire on his head, killing her. Tammy still can't believe that Kathy's mind took control of the car, but JJ says that the most important thing now is to find a safe place, so he uses the radio to call for help, but nobody answers. Jesse goes to rest a little, and Tammy is surprised to find out that her daughter is attached to JJ. She explains that their relationship has always been very difficult, just like her marriage with Kathy, who has always been a selfish and ambitious man. However, JJ does not want to reveal to Tammy that Kathy and Cliff are both responsible for the accident that almost cost her her life. The vehicle is not working well, and JJ is forced to stop. As there is nothing to do for the moment, the last resource of JJ is a racing car that he must deliver to his owner. He begins to prepare the car for the trip and by the tamiz of Jessie and her intrepid character. But at that moment, the ghost car goes at full speed in front of her, carrying the young girl with her. The driver's mind wants to participate in another race with his rival to prove that he has always been the best. JJ is happy to say that his priority is to save the young girl. The rest of the car is covered in blood, and Cliff's head hangs on the passenger seat. Jessie is desperate and tries to get out of the car, but it continues inexorably on her way. JJ decides to challenge the ghost car in a race to save the girl. JJ asks Tammy to wait in the car while he prepares a trap to stop his rival. A few minutes later, the ghost car arrives at the factory and heads for Tammy's car. JJ appears in the wheel of a carousel and hits Katie's car, leaving her stuck against the wall. JJ uses a beehive to break the windshield and free Jessie, then runs away with her. But the ghost car breaks the windshield and tries to get out. JJ asks Jessie to take Tammy while he draws the attention of his rival. The two run away in their racing car while JJ follows them on foot. The ghost car runs as fast as it can, but JJ provokes the vehicle to attack it. Gégé suddenly makes a mess and the ghost car rushes towards the sea. It seems that the vehicle is no longer intended to bore them, and Gégé soon finds Tammy and her daughter. He soon discovers that the nightmare is not over yet and that the ghost car comes out of the water. At nightfall, he briefly stops at a gas station. Gégé forces the owner of the gas station to lend him the keys to his vehicle. The man accepts, but returns to his office and takes out his art. Gégé manages to disarm him and tells him that they must leave the park because someone is pursuing them, but the ghost car is already running towards the service station. The ghost car then tries to crush Gégé, but the vehicle ends up hitting one of the gas tanks. Gégé decides to attract Kate in one last confrontation to settle this difference. Kate prepares to strike the car of his former rival again, but instead he stops the car next to him, inside the home. Gégé can see the spirit of Kate materialize. Gégé goes to a car under Tommy's weight. Tommy appears at the wheel of a shovel that she uses to lift Kate's car, but she begins to lose control of the tractor, which allows the ghost car to escape. The demonic vehicle moves toward Gégé and is about to crush her, but Jessie appears at the wheel of a pickup and hits the car. The girl continues to push the ghost car towards a grinder that Gégé activates. The ghost car is completely crushed and there is only the old necklace left to wear Kate. The great quarrel between Gégé and Kate is finally over, and the trucker leaves with his new family. The next day, the remains of Kate's car are piled up with other accident vehicles, but for no apparent reason, the battery collapses on the ground, indicating that the ghost car will soon take its revenge on the road.